The story opens on a cold, wind-streaked plain stretching endlessly beneath a faded Wyoming sky. The land is silent except for the steady rhythm of hooves striking hard earth. Eli McGraw, a man past 40, rides his chestnut mare through the dust, his hat pulled low, his coat worn thin by years of hard labor and harder memories to any stranger. He looks like every other cowboy wandering the frontier, lean, quiet, and alone. But there's something in his eyes that sets him apart, a shadow that never leaves, a sorrow that won't let go. Eli once had a home, a dream, and a woman who believed in him. Years ago, he worked at the Willow Creek Ranch, known across the valley for its green pastures and the laughter of a young woman named Clara Boone. Clara had been light where he was dark, hope where he carried pain. She saw through his rough talk and calloused hands, finding gentleness buried beneath his pride. Under the shelter of the willow tree by the creek, they built a love both quiet and strong. One summer evening, with fireflies flickering between the branches, Clara had whispered, "I'll wait for you here, Eli, right here, beneath this tree." But life in the West was never kind to dreamers. Eli, desperate to build a life worthy of her, left Willow Creek to chase opportunity, a cattle drive that promised riches. He vowed to return within a year. Yet fortune turned cruel. The drive failed, men died, and Eli barely made it back with his life. Ashamed of his failure and stripped of pride, he convinced himself Clara deserved better. He never returned, not realizing that the woman who'd loved him never gave up her weight beneath that same willow now. 15 years later, the cowboy drifts with nowhere left to go. He spent years running from his mistakes, working at distant ranches, sleeping under open skies, trying to bury what can't be buried. His only companion is silence, and his only comfort the stars. Every town he passes through reminds him of what he lost. A home, a promise, and the woman who believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. As he rides through a growing storm, thunder rolls across the open plains. The sky darkens, the wind howls, and rain begins to fall in sharp, cold sheets. His mare, weary and trembling, struggles to see through the downpour. In the distance, a faint outline appears, an old wooden gate, half broken and hanging by one hinge. Through the rain, Eli reads a faded carving burned into the beam. Willow Creek Ranch. A shiver runs through him that has nothing to do with the cold. The past he tried to outrun has finally caught up. He dismounts, leading his horse slowly through the gate. The land is overgrown, the fences sagging, and the barns empty. The ranch that was once alive with laughter now lies silent, forgotten by time. When lightning cracks across the sky, Eli sees the willow tree standing tall near the creek, old now, its branches heavy and twisted, but still rooted deep. He walks toward it, boots sinking into the wet earth, heart pounding like a drum. The wind tugs at his coat as he stops beneath its canopy. Staring up through the dripping leaves, it feels like standing before a grave. He takes off his hat, presses it to his chest, and whispers, "I'm sorry," for the first time in years. Eli allows himself to remember the sound of Clara's laughter, the way her hand fit perfectly in his, and the promise he broke the night he rode away. Beneath that tree, with rain falling like tears, the cowboy feels the full weight of his past settle on his shoulders, and though he doesn't yet know it, returning to that place will awaken ghosts and begin the journey toward redemption. He never believed he deserved the morning after the storm. The world around Eli McGraw glistens under a pale gold sunrise. The rain has washed the dust from the land, but it hasn't washed away the ache in his chest. He hasn't slept much, just sat under the old willow tree through the night, his back against its weathered trunk, listening to the creek whisper through the grass. When dawn comes, he knows he can't keep drifting. The land he once loved is dying, and perhaps, in saving it, he might save a small part of himself a mile down the road. A ranch still stands, fences sagging, the corral half broken, but smoke rising faintly from the chimney. A hand-painted sign reads Boone Ranch. The name hits him like a stone to the ribs. Jed Boone, Clara's brother. Years ago, Jed was a proud rancher, strong and sharp-eyed. The kind of man who could fix a fence, break a horse, and still find time to tease his little sister about the cowboy who came calling too often. Eli debates turning back, but hunger and weariness win out. He knocks on the door. Jed opens it, older now, lines cutting deep into his sun-browned face, one arm stiff from an old injury. His eyes narrow as he studies the stranger before him. "Looking for work?" he asks. Eli nods quietly, giving only his first name. Jed hesitates but finally lets him in. Work hands are hard to come by, and pride doesn't put food on the table. Eli begins mending fences, feeding stock, and fixing whatever's fallen apart with the years. He works with the silent intensity of a man trying to make peace with the land itself. The Boone Ranch, though smaller than before, still holds traces of the past, the faded red barn, the porch swing that creaks in the wind, and the willow tree visible in the distance, standing like a sentinel over lost memories that evening. While repairing a corral post, Eli hears a soft voice behind him. "You missed a nail." He turns and sees a young woman standing a few yards away, holding a bucket of feed. Her hair glows in the sunset's amber light, and her eyes, steady, curious, and hauntingly familiar, make his breath hitch. She introduces herself as Mara Boone, Yet's niece. It takes Eli a moment to find his words. He realizes she's not Yet's daughter, but Clara's Mara's resemblance to Clara is uncanny, not just in looks but in spirit. There's a spark in her, tempered by a sadness she hides well. She's strong, capable, and unafraid to speak her mind. Yet, when she smiles, something soft stirs in Eli's heart, a reflection of a woman he loved long ago. Days turn into weeks. Eli works quietly, never sharing much about his past. Mara watches him with growing curiosity. There's something about this man that doesn't fit the mold of an ordinary drifter. He treats the animals with a tenderness that surprises her, talks to the land like it's alive, and often disappears by the creek at dusk. She doesn't know that every evening he stands under the willow tree, whispering into the wind words meant for the woman he left behind. Then, one evening, as the light fades, Eli overhears a conversation between Jed and Mara. Yet's voice is low and rough. "Your mama loved this land more than life itself. Never married after he left her. Said she'd wait." The words twist like a knife in Eli's chest. Clara had kept her promise, waiting beneath the same tree where they once shared dreams. But now, she's gone that night. Eli rides out to the willow, moonlight silvering the branches. He pulls a small silver locket from his coat pocket, Clara's locket, the one she'd given him the day he left. Inside is a faded sketch of her face, drawn by her own hand. His fingers tremble as he holds it. "I came back too late," he whispers, his voice breaking. The creek murmurs softly in reply, as though carrying her memory through time unseen behind him. Mara watches from a distance. The sight of the rugged cowboy weeping beneath the old tree stirs something deep within her. Confusion, sorrow, and a pull she doesn't understand. Who is this man, and why does her mother's willow still hold his pain? The ghosts of Willow Creek have awakened, and Eli McGraw cannot run any more. The days after that moonlit night at the willow tree are heavy with silence. Mara Boone can't shake the image of the mysterious drifter kneeling beneath the branches, clutching something close to his heart. She tells herself it's none of her business. But her mother's willow has always been sacred ground, the heart of their land, and the place where Clara Boone's spirit still seems to linger, whoever that man truly is. He carries something tied to her mother's memory. Mara watches him more closely now. Eli McGraw works harder than any man she's ever seen. He rises before dawn, repairs fences until his hands bleed, and never complains. He eats quietly, speaks little, and disappears every evening as the sun sinks behind the hills. She starts noticing small things, the way he looks toward the willow like it's calling to him, the gentleness with which he strokes her horse's neck, the haunted look that passes over his face whenever someone mentions Clara's name. One afternoon, while bringing water to the corral, she asks him straight out, "Did you know my mother?" Eli freezes, the hammer still in his hand. His jaw tightens. "No, ma'am," he says after a long pause. His voice low. "Can't say I did." But Mara doesn't believe him. There's something in his tone, not denial, but regret. That evening, a wildfire sparks on the northern ridge. Whipped by the dry wind, the Boone Ranch erupts in chaos as flames crawl across the grass. Horses panic, cattle bellow, and Mara rushes to untie her mare blaze, who's trapped near the corral. The smoke stings her eyes. She coughs, stumbling through the haze. Out of nowhere, L.A. appears, pulling his bandana over his mouth. "Get back!" he shouts, grabbing the frightened horse's reins. The animal rears. Kicking wildly, Eli throws his arm over its neck. Leading it through the smoke while shielding Mara with his body, together they run until the fire finally dies behind them, leaving the land scorched but still standing when the air clears. Jed finds them both soot-streaked and shaking. Eli's arm is burned, but he brushes off the injury. "Just another day's work," he mutters. But that night, while Mara tends to his wound by the firelight, she sees the silver locket around his neck, the same one she'd seen once in her mother's hands when she was a child. The sight steals her breath. Without a word, she reaches out and touches it. "Where did you get this?" she asks. Eli hesitates, his eyes dark with memories. Finally, he whispers, "She gave it to me. A long time ago." Mara's heart thunders in her chest. The pieces fall into place, the way he looked at the willow, his sadness when her mother's name was spoken, the tenderness in his voice. "You were the man," she says, her voice trembling. "The one she waited for." Eli's silence is answer enough. He looks away, unable to meet her gaze. The air between them is heavy, filled with years of pain, unanswered questions, and unspoken truth. Mara stands slowly, torn between anger and sorrow. "All those years," she whispers, her voice breaking, "she never stopped believing you'd come back. She died with your name on her lips." Eli's shoulders shake as he stares into the flames. "I thought I was doing right," he says hoarsely. "I wanted to give her a better life. But I lost everything. And by the time I had the courage to return, I was too late." The confession hits Mara like a blow. She feels pity and rage all at once. "You should have come back," she says through tears. "Even with nothing, she didn't care about money. She just wanted you." Eli nods, his face wet with tears he can no longer hide. "I know," he says, "and I'll carry that mistake until I'm gone." Outside, the wind rustles through the grass and the willow tree bends softly in the distance as if listening. Mara turns away, her heart breaking not just for her mother, but for the man before her, a man who spent his life buried under the weight of his own remorse for the first time. She sees him not as a drifter or stranger, but as a man haunted by love and by the ghost of a promise never kept. The truth, once spoken, spreads through the Boone Ranch like wildfire, quiet at first, then burning through every corner of memory and pain. Mara Boone can barely look at Ally McGraw without her heart twisting. She wants to hate him for breaking her mother's heart. Yet every time she sees him, the way his hands tremble when he passes the willow, the hollow sorrow in his voice, she feels the depth of his regret. It's a strange ache, the kind that blurs the line between anger and compassion. Jed Boone, however, has no such confusion. When he discovers the truth, that the drifter who's been working under his Roof is the same man who abandoned Clara all those years ago. His fury is instant and raw. He storms into the barn one evening, his fists clenched, voice echoing through the rafters. "You've got some nerve showing your face here." "McGraw," Jed spits, his weathered face red with anger. "She waited for you. Died waiting, you left her to rot in heartbreak." Eli doesn't defend himself. He stands still, eyes lowered, hat in his hands. Every word Jed throws feels like one he's already spoken to himself 1,000 times over. "You're right," he says quietly. "I've got no excuse worth hearing. I came back to make peace, not to ask forgiveness." Yet's voice breaks. "Peace? You think peace brings her back?" His hand twitches toward the rifle hanging by the stall. But Mara rushes in, tears in her eyes. "Stop it." "Uncle," she pleads. "He's not here to hurt anyone." "Maybe not," Jed growls. "But he's hurt enough already." He glares at Eli, his voice lowering into something colder. "You'll be gone by sunrise. I don't want your ghost on this land." Eli nods without argument. There's nothing left to say that night. The ranch is silent. Even the crickets seem to have stilled. Eli sits alone beneath the willow, his lantern flickering in the dark. He holds Clara's silver locket in his hand, running his thumb over the engraving, the simple initials CB still clear despite the years. The creek murmurs softly nearby, and the branches sway as if whispering to him. He remembers the last time he saw her, her hand in his, her eyes shining with faith he didn't deserve. He remembers promising her he'd return, and how that promise became a chain that dragged behind him for decades. He's tired of running, tired of guilt, tired of being haunted by a love that outlived him. As the first hint of dawn glows over the horizon, Eli kneels beneath the willow. He digs a shallow hollow in the earth with his bare hands and gently lays the locket inside. His voice cracks as he whispers, "I couldn't give you the life I promised, Clara, but maybe I can give you my peace." He covers the locket with soil, presses his hand flat against the earth, and lets the tears fall, tears he's kept buried for 20 years. Each drop feels like a confession. The pain, though heavy, begins to loosen its grip. Replaced by a quiet stillness, Mara approaches silently, the morning light soft on her face. She stops a few paces away, watching him in silence for a long time. Neither speaks. The only sound is the rustling of willow leaves in the gentle breeze when Eli finally looks up. His eyes glisten with the kind of sorrow words can't carry. "I buried the past here," he says softly. Mara kneels beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't need to bury it," she whispers. "You just needed to let it rest." Her voice trembles, but it carries the strength her mother once had. She tells him something he never expected to hear, something that feels like grace. "Mama forgave you long before you came back," she says. "She told me once that love isn't about staying, it's about meaning it, even when you can't." Eli closes his eyes and a single tear slides down his cheek. The words strike deep, both a wound and a balm. For the first time, he feels lighter, as if the ghost of Clara Boone has finally released him. The sunrise breaks fully over the plains, turning the willow's branches to gold. Beneath its light, Eli McGraw feels something he hasn't felt in decades, not joy, not peace, but forgiveness, and though he knows he'll be leaving soon. The land that once held only pain now holds a small piece of healing, a beginning where an ending once lived. The morning after Eli buried Clara's locket beneath the willow tree feels different. The air carries a gentler stillness, and the land, though worn and weary, seems to breathe again. For the first time in years, Eli McGraw feels a quiet sense of belonging, fragile but real. He had come to Willow Creek to face the ghosts of his past, and somehow, through pain and confession, he's found a sliver of peace. But leaving isn't as simple as he thought. When he starts packing his saddlebag at dawn, Mara Boone finds him by the barn. She stands with her arms crossed, eyes firm but kind. "If you go," she says softly, "the fences will fall apart again and the herd will scatter. You fixed more than just the ranch. Eli, you fixed the pieces we were too tired to mend." Eli hesitates, the weight of his guilt still pressing on him. "Your uncle made it clear." He murmurs, "I've overstayed my welcome." Mara shakes her head. "He's angry, not heartless. Give him time." She turns to leave but adds quietly, "My mother wouldn't want you to walk away again." Those words linger in Eli's heart long after she's gone. He looks out over the ranch, the same land he once dreamed of building with Clara, and makes a decision he stays at first. Jed Boone barely acknowledges him. Their exchanges are short, civil, and cold, but Eli doesn't press. He works from dawn till dark, fixing fences, clearing brush, and nursing the cattle through the harsh days of drought. He rebuilds the ranch piece by piece, not out of obligation, but out of reverence for Clara, for her memory, and for the family she left behind. Mara works beside him, strong and determined, her spirit much like her mother's. Together, they bring new life to the land. She handles the bookkeeping and rides the herd, while Eli teaches her old tricks about taming horses and reading weather signs. Slowly, laughter begins to return to Willow Creek. The place no longer feels haunted, it feels alive one evening. As the sun bleeds into the horizon, Jed walks out to the corral where Eli is repairing a gate. He leans on the fence post, watching in silence before saying, "You've done good work here." His tone is gruff, but there's no bitterness in it. Eli nods. Unsure how to respond, Jed continues after a pause, his voice rougher now. "Clara, she believed you'd come back. I didn't, but maybe she knew something I didn't." Eli's throat tightens. "If she forgave me, I don't deserve it." Jed sighs, shaking his head. "None of us deserve half the grace we get." He looks up at the willow tree swaying in the distance. "You can stay, McGraw. Lord knows this ranch could use another pair of hands, and maybe another heart willing to care." The unspoken forgiveness between the two men is heavier than words for the first time in decades. Eli smiles, not wide, not proud, but honest. Over the next few months, Willow Creek transforms. The fences stand tall again. The herd grows strong. The barns are repaired, the fields replanted. The air carries laughter once more, especially from Mara, whose joy becomes the soul of the ranch. She and Eli share quiet moments under the willow, talking about Clara, the storms they've survived, and the strange ways life gives second chances to broken people. Eli teaches Mara how to carve wood in the evenings, shaping small figurines for the mantel, a horse, a cross, and finally, a tiny heart with the initial CB etched inside. Mara smiles when she sees it, tears shining in her eyes. She'd be proud. She whispers. The ranch begins to draw attention again. Neighbors visit. Helping hands return, and the Boone family name regains its honor. But beyond the mended fences and thriving fields, something far more meaningful has been rebuilt. Trust. Eli McGraw came to Willow Creek seeking redemption. What he found was family, not through blood, but through forgiveness, labor, and love that grew quietly. Like wildflowers after rain, the willow tree, once a monument to sorrow, now stands as a symbol of renewal. Beneath its sweeping branches, where a broken man once buried his past, new life takes root, and for the first time in 20 years. When the wind moves through the grass, it doesn't sound like regret. It sounds like home. Years pass, and the seasons roll gently over Willow Creek Ranch, painting the land with the soft brushstrokes of time. What was once a place of sorrow and ruin now breathes with new life. Fences strong, fields golden, cattle thriving. The laughter of Mara Boone echoes through the pastures as she works beside Eli McGraw, who has grown older but somehow lighter. The hard edges of the haunted drifter have softened into the calm grace of a man who's made peace with himself and his past. though his hair has turned silver and his hands bear the marks of years of labor. Eli still rides out every morning before sunrise. He checks the herd, mends the gates, and always ends his ride at the willow tree by the creek. What once felt like a grave marker now feels like a friend, a living witness to promises broken, forgiven, and fulfilled. Sometimes he talks to Clara aloud, his voice low and steady. "You'd be proud, darlin'," he says with a quiet smile. "The land's alive again. Mara's got your spirit. She laughs like you did, even when it hurts." Mara, now a grown woman with a strength all her own, often joins him under the willow in the evenings. They sit in silence, watching the sky turn amber and rose. Their bond has deepened into something sacred, not quite father and daughter, but something just as powerful. Two souls bound by the same love that time could not break, but as the years pass, Eli begins to slow. His steps grow heavier, his breath shorter. One morning, while repairing a broken fence, he feels a sharp pain in his chest and leans against a post. The world spinning faintly around him, Mara finds him sitting beneath the willow later that afternoon. His hat tilted low, his eyes distant but peaceful, she kneels beside him. "You shouldn't be out here alone," she scolds gently. But her voice trembles. Eli smiles faintly. "Couldn't help it, the tree was calling me." Mara takes his weathered hand. "You've done enough. Eli, rest now, you've given us everything." He looks at her, really looks, and in her face. He sees Clara's kindness, her fire, her faith. "No," he says softly. "You and your mama gave me everything. I just had to come home to see it." That night, the sky fills with stars so bright they shimmer like the ghosts of all the dreams Eli once buried. He sits on the porch, listening to the crickets, his heart steady but tired. Before dawn, he saddles his mare one last time and rides out toward the creek. The morning mist clings to the grass, the horizon glowing with the first blush of sunrise. He stops beneath the willow and dismounts slowly, leaning against its trunk from his coat. He pulls a small wooden cross he's been carving for weeks, simple, smooth, and marked with the initials CB and EM. He plants it gently into the soil where he buried Clara's locket so many years ago. His voice, frail but steady, breaks the silence. "I spent half my life running from ghosts," he murmurs. "But this tree, this land, it brought me home." When Mara finds him later, the sun has risen fully, painting the land in gold. Eli's hat rests over his chest, his eyes closed, his expression calm. Beneath the willow, he looks at peace, like a man who finally found the home he'd been chasing all his life. They bury him beside Clara, under the same tree that once held their promise. Mara ties the silver locket to one of its branches, letting it sway in the breeze. Catching the light like a living memory, wildflowers bloom around their graves each spring, their colors bright and tender against the weathered soil over time. People say that the willow of Willow Creek never loses its leaves, even in winter, that it stands green year-round, as though love itself keeps it alive. And every evening, when the wind rustles through the valley, Mara looks toward the horizon and whispers, "He made it home," for in the heart of the West, where dust meets sky and time forgives all things. Eli McGraw's story ends not with sorrow, but with peace and a promise kept at last.